That's my kind of man.
He would gay them to show them who's boss.
Hey, stop that!
Get lost!
They all bailed at once. If this guy was winning right now, 55-45, there is no way they would all be throwing him under the bus. All right, everybody, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2026, and no fluff at the top of the show today. We are diving right in. There is a lot to get to. We're going to bounce all over the globe, get you caught up on a whole bunch of stuff, including some things that are happening right now. The war, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. You say tomato, I say tomato. A lot going on there with Trump in Turkey right now. There might be a little rejiggering, there's a word for you, of our NATO alliance. Then this Graham Plattner gay rape of the Democrat Party continues, and then we're going to get into some crazy stuff with Zorhan, but end on a positive note, as we try to do around here. But all right, let's start with the war, which seems to be starting up again as of last night, as it appears that Iran shot at least 2 tankers that were trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz. And as you know, as this MOU was signed, while they figure out all of the details on what a long-term agreement could be, basically the Strait of Hormuz was supposed to be open, and it's been open for, I don't know, about 2 weeks or so. Obviously, people going through are probably a little nervous, going, what the high hell's going on over here? And is that guy aiming a gun at me or whatever? But it's basically been okay until last night. Here's Fox with what happened.
Again, another reported tanker strike in the Strait of Hormuz. We think 2 have been struck. It might be more, but we'll hang on to 2 for the moment. A tanker struck by an unknown projectile trying to transit the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, another one made a U-turn and turned around. No casualties reported. Vessels are being advised to transit with caution. Meanwhile, from Fox Business, they've obtained audio of an Iranian threatening the ships in the strait, and here is how that sounded in English.
This is the last warning. This is last warning. This is last warning. You are running danger. Don't put your life in danger. You are ordered to alter course, to port us immediately. Alter course, to port us immediately and use the south of Larak Island to exit. If you disobey, you will be targeted.
Okay, so there we have it. Some tankers were shot at. The strait is supposed to be open for everybody at the moment as they figure out all the long-term details. Here's a bit more from U.S. Central Command. U.S. Central Command forces have begun launching a series of powerful strikes against Iran to impose heavy costs for targeting and attacking commercial shipping crewed by innocent civilians in an international waterway. The U.S. strikes are in response to Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vessels that were transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's demonstrated aggression was unwarranted, dangerous, and a clear violation of the ceasefire. So I don't think anybody, regardless of whether you were for the war or against the war or for the MOU or against it or anything else, I don't think anyone right now, or at least anyone honest, is debating that Iran did break the ceasefire, right? Shooting at ships that are supposed to have free passage or safe passage was against the agreement. And then the U.S. did what anyone would do in a negotiation like this, which is, oh, you guys did not honor it. Now we're going to do what we can do. In this case, it's use our military leverage. Donald Trump is bouncing all over the globe right now. He was asked about whether the ceasefire is over. Take a look.
Ceasefire over. Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. liars. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
All right, they're scum. You know what scum is, guys? It's scum. It's pretty scummy. I don't want to deal with them. It's over. Now, he did at the end, there was a little caveat there basically saying, hey, Witkoff and Jared are still negotiating, but, I'm the decider. And, this is one of those things where, just like when Trump, I'm going to erase, what was it? I'm going to end the civilization, and I didn't go crazy about it. I'm not going to go crazy about whether it's over or not. This is Trump using colorful language, speaking off the cuff. Is it really over? Is the ceasefire over? Because in essence, if the ceasefire is over, and there is no agreement, well then really what Trump would be saying is we're going back to, full-scale war with these guys. Is that really what he wants to do or what he's saying? I'm not totally sure. But by saying something that sounds a little nutty, they're scum, don't like them very much, gonna do something about it, maybe you get them to behave better. But I actually think maybe what he didn't say there, or what he subtly said, was the more important part, which is he's basically had it with these guys. I think he's coming around to the understanding that who are we really negotiating with over there? They just had the big funeral for Ayatollah, and all the bad guys like the Legion of Doom showed up, and it was like, there's Solomon Grundy, and there's, Connor, give me a couple of DC bad guys. Who else do they have over there? They got, they got Killer Croc. You love that Killer Croc. And who's the bald guy? Who's the main bad guy? But Lex Luthor, and everybody's there, and they were all very sad that Khomeini's out. Okay, fine. But what in essence, what he was saying without fully saying it was, I just don't trust these guys anymore. I've had it with these guys. He's kind of saying it, but it's like, if that's the conclusion that you've really come to, then we can only conclude that you mean we're going back to war. So we'll see about that. Here's Trump expanding on that a bit more.
Won't resume after we get through the funeral proceedings. Does this mean that talks with Iran will not resume?
I don't care. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. I do it my whole life. That's all I do is deals. My whole life that's how I became president, I guess. That's a deal too, right? They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. Frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Now, I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it. I don't like these people, you know that? I like him, I like the leaders, I think all of these leaders.
Great. And they love him.
I think they didn't treat the United States fairly.
Right, so this is a little of Trump playing good cop, bad cop. He, in essence, is playing bad cop here. I've had it with these guys. I don't care what they come back and say, blah, 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 but I'm going to keep sending my guys over there to talk to them. Now, is that bluster, or does he really mean it? Like, he's being pretty loose with his language for a guy that generally is loose with his language. Like, you can't mince it any other way. He really hates these guys. He doesn't trust these guys. They're bad. It's interesting also that he hasn't brought up that they've killed 54,000 of their own people, literally this calendar year alone. He hasn't brought that up in quite some time. The fact that suddenly got brought up again. So there's some interesting stuff moving around there. Now, you may have noted, if you looked in the little bottom corner there, that this was in Ankara, Turkey, and they are having the big NATO meeting right now in Turkey. And although it confuses a lot of people, myself included, I don't know exactly why Turkey is even in NATO, that is where they were having the meeting. He was sitting next to Secretary General Mark Rutte, who's a former Prime Minister, President of Holland. And here they get into it a bit more on something that Trump's been wildly consistent with. Of Denmark, not of Holland. But here they get into something that Trump's been very, very consistent with, which is that if you guys in NATO and our purported quote-unquote allies, if when we need you, you're not there, if you don't let us use your bases, if you don't call us back, if we have lopsided trade deals, we're just done with you. And as Spain has gone basically full communist, Trump's done with Spain.
To Italy, I didn't speak to Spain. Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. They don't participate, they don't pay. I don't want anything to do with Spain. Cut off all trade with Spain, please, including visits. Okay, we don't want anything to do. Watch them come running back. Oh, they'll come running back. They treat this man terribly, and this man's a good man too, great man. They're lucky they have him. But we don't have to. We don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right?
Yes, sir.
Take it immediately. Don't even talk to them. they're hopeless. Bad people.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was talking to Scott Besson on the side there, basically like, we're no more trading. Besson's like, okay, we'll make it happen. Now, I don't know, does that mean we're not going to be able to get sangria? Or what else do they got? They got that... Changa cheese?
Manchango cheese.
Manchango cheese. Will we not be able to get Manchango cheese? Let's get a couple other things from Spain. You've got your sangria, Manchango cheese, your Spanish chorizo. They like the pork. They take the pork leg and it's like a prosciutto, like a Spanish prosciutto. Anything else? Are they making it? Olive oil, but we could get that from Italy. Anything else? Give me one more thing from Spain.
Tapas.
Some tapas. So look, it's gonna hurt. We'll be okay. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But again, I'm showing you this is Trump. He's doing a lot of things in Turkey, and we're going to have much more on that in just a second. But this is like Trump 101. I'm going to say some crazy things. We'll let them negotiate, but at some point, we just are not going to negotiate anymore as it pertains to Iran. And then it pertains to the trade deals. And you guys, are you allies or not? And Spain, during the hot part of the war, remember, they did not let us use their bases, even though, as Trump said, we could have just gone in and flew in and taken the bases. There are bases. But we had to do these crazy circuitous routes around Spain to get to Iran, depending on where the planes were starting, because Spain didn't cooperate with us. So at some point, Trump's right. It's like, all right, I'm pretty sure, Spain, you need America more than America needs you. Will we be able to take siestas anymore? I don't know. That would kill me. I enjoyed that 20-minute nap around 3 o'clock. Let's talk about Chapter for a sec. Guys, if you or someone you love is on Medicare, this is worth paying attention to. Medicare can be confusing, and a lot of people end up on the wrong plan without even realizing it. That's where Chapter comes in. They're independent Medicare advisors who compare every plan available, not just the ones that pay them the most. They'll look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your healthcare costs and needs, and they'll help you find the plan that's right for you. If you're already on the best plan, they'll tell you, and if not, they'll help you switch. And by the way, they did help my mother-in-law switch. I don't know that she wants everyone knowing she was on Medicare, but it's okay. It takes less than 20 minutes on a free call, and seniors who work with Chapter save an average of $1,100 a year. Don't guess when it comes to your health care. Call Chapter today at 332-867-0207 or visit askchapter.org/Rubin. Once again, that's 332-867-0207 or visit askchapter.org/Rubin. Pause for a moment here, because I should note, since I just brought up sangria, that we did our crazy Copal sale for my birthday, the 50% off for my 50th birthday, which all my people were like, David, don't do it, it's crazy. We sold thousands and thousands of bottles. I think around 5,000 bottles in 36 hours. We broke every online sales record from our distributor and everything else. So there are still a few bottles. A few of you have been asking. You don't even have to put the link up right now. There are still a few bottles that haven't gone out yet because we completely overwhelmed everybody. But I do appreciate everybody's patience on that. And the reviews are coming in. If you haven't been to the website, like, people are loving it. So I'm thrilled on that. And forget about the sangria. Who needs it? You got tequila. Okay, let's jump back to Turkey for a moment, because this is where the annual NATO meeting is happening. And here is Trump once again. This is Trump 101. If you guys don't pay your fair share, if you do not play ball with us, we don't like you very much, and we may not defend you anymore.
I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada.
Okay, so there is, as I said at the top, there is a little something strange that Turkey, which is basically the home of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're up to a lot of no good, that they're even part of NATO and this is happening there. But let's punt that for just a second. What Trump is talking about is just something that he has said. I mean, this is day one. This is 10 years ago, Trump, right? Like, you guys aren't paying your fair share. And why are we stationing all these troops in Germany and France and doing all these defense pacts with countries that won't defend themselves and that open up their borders and that don't vote with us at the UN, to whatever extent the UN even matters anymore, which is less and less every day? Or that when Trump said it. I don't know that he was totally, I don't know that that was completely right chronologically. He was basically saying we didn't ask, they said no before we asked. Let's assume he's telling the truth there, or that's roughly right. Doesn't even matter whether they immediately said no or we asked and they said no. It's like, what is the point? What is the point of paying for the security of places that we have lopsided trade deals with, who then when we call them, we need them? Hey, we just need to use your airspace for something we're doing. You don't even have to get involved in the case of Spain. It's like they say no. At what point is it just an abusive relationship? And that's what Trump is trying to fix. Here he furthers that point as he talks about now what's going on with Greenland.
Well, that's what hurt my relationship with NATO, because Greenland doesn't help Denmark. Denmark doesn't spend money to really help Greenland, but it's an important part for the United States. And it's surrounded by China ships and Russian ships. And that's not going to happen. The ships it's not going to happen. It was Greenland that, and it continues to be, that should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark. And when they wouldn't go along with it, and with all the money we spend to help them with Russia, and we don't have to spend any money, we could remove all of our soldiers out of Europe. Because as you probably noticed, Europe's a very different place than it was 20 years ago.
You know, it's interesting. This is where, I keep saying how different the country will be on November 4th of this year, because the election is on the 3rd, and if the Republicans lose, Trump's hung up, he's impeached, this thing ends, and I think we'll all really come to regret it and rue the day that we let it happen. But if the Republicans win, you can see what Trump is doing. There's only so many things you can do at once, right? So does Trump want Greenland? It's pretty damn obvious. Does he feel he can go in right now? I guess not. Has Trump made it clear, and Rubio made it clear, they want to do something on Cuba? Yeah. Do they feel that they can do it right now? Like, everything's about timing. There's only so many things you can bite off at once, and now it appears that the Iran thing's going hot again. And how many places does he have to put out fires while dealing with the crazy Democrats and the rise of the commies, and dealing with, still keeping the border closed and deportations and everything else? But again, it's just endlessly consistent out of him, if nothing else, which is Denmark, okay, you planted a flag on that thing 100 years ago, but now it's got some bad nations that are encroaching on it, and they're getting closer to Canada, and Canada, in essence, is a failed state, or it's almost like a Chinese satellite at this point, and that's on our border, so it is of the American interest to do something about Greenland. So do I think he will do something? I suspect he will, and I think these things are mostly about timing right now. Here's another one from Trump, hitting them hard, the Europeans, on what they've done with immigration and energy, and how they are quite literally, they're falling on the sword. They are killing themselves in the name of, well, I guess as my friend Gad Saad calls it, suicidal empathy.
And they better be careful with immigration and energy. If they're not careful with those two things, you're not going to have a Europe anymore.
Yeah. Plain language and true. At what point is the UK no longer the UK if it is run by Islamists? Same deal for France, same deal for Holland, right? We can go through the list of countries, same deal for Germany. You guys have seriously screwed yourselves. Not only have you screwed yourselves in immigration, but then on the energy side too, where they're literally telling old people to shut their air off in the summer, and they don't want people to run heat in the winter, and the Nord Stream pipeline, and all of these things. It's like you guys are destroying yourselves. Trump, this is the thing with Trump more than anything else. What drives Trump? Trump loves success. So if you're a partner that will fight, so why, for example, what's one reason that he likes Israel? There are probably many reasons he likes Israel, but he likes that if he calls the Israelis and he's like, we're going to go do something and bomb some people, and we got to make some stuff happen, they're like, all right, sir, let's roll. He likes people that stand up for themselves, and then that's how you build things. And that is so, to that first clip we showed you, he said, what am I known for? I make deals. He's been building things his whole life. If you're trying to build things, like if you're trying to build a company, I've built a couple companies. If you're literally trying to build a house, you're trying to build anything. You want people that are like doers. Go out and do something for yourself. You don't want to, I'm going to build a company, I'm going to build a house. Can I get a bunch of people that just want to rely on me and not do much? And I'm going to overpay them, and they're going to be constantly bitching and moaning about what I'm giving them for lunch. No, so there's something very obvious about what Trump is doing on all these things. Now, here's where it gets a little weird, because the fact that this is happening in Turkey, and that Turkey is a NATO ally. Turkey's been slaughtering the Kurds. They slaughter their own people. They have very little protections around free speech. The Muslim Brotherhood is basically based in Turkey. Hamas was hiding people there. Turkey and Erdogan are not great people. However, he's trying to play nice with them. And as I say with everything with Trump, until it goes horrifically awry, I think he deserves our trust on this stuff. And maybe he's doing a little keep enemies closer thing here. But here he is talking about removing sanctions on Turkey.
I can tell you, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. Okay? I don't want him to waste his time answering that question because we're working very closely with Marco Rubio, a very famous man, great Secretary of State, and with Scott Bessent and with Pete and everybody else, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. It's time to do that. Okay? We don't want to sanction friends. It's very simple.
Okay, so I'm actually not even totally sure what sanctions we've had on Turkey. Also not sure how we can really call Turkey friends. But it seems to me that he's trying to play nice with this guy, and perhaps, and maybe this is what Trump has done a little bit with Qatar and a little bit with Saudi Arabia, that it's not that these guys are so spectacular, but if we can kind of bring them in a little bit, I mean, this is keep your enemies close, right? And maybe that's a bit of what he's doing here. Now, here is where I thought it went like a little bit sideways, and again, I'm giving Trump as much leeway as I possibly can here.
But there are a couple I don't like much. I like Erdogan. I'll tell you, I like President Erdogan. He rolled out the red carpet. He's terrific. You know, he could have gone into the war. A lot of people saying, like with Bibi, I like Bibi. I think Bibi was a terrific wartime prime minister. But Bibi said rough things yesterday about Turkey and Erdogan. And I said, you know, I spoke to him. I said, he could have gone into the war because he doesn't like Israel much. And he doesn't like Bibi much. And he didn't go because of me. And this is a military power. Millions of soldiers. Turkey is very strong. They have a lot of our best equipment. They're trying to get the F-35s. But he didn't go in. He wanted it. He would go in. If it weren't for me, he would have gone in. And he would have been on the other side.
All right, so that is quite a statement right there to say, okay, fine, so Bibi and Erdogan don't like each other, fine, they say mean things about each other, that's one thing. But to say, you know, we're just wrapping up this war, which actually is starting up again, and the guy who I'm in his host country now, telling him what a good friend he is and how great he is, he was about to be on the other side of the war, but I stopped him. So now let's consider arming them with F-35s, and they have a bunch of our other stuff. This is where I just don't understand that, but I'm not going to sit here and just blow up Trump or whatever. Like, maybe there is some sort of bigger strategy there. But it seems to me, if this guy was about, like, just we're weeks out of the war and we're going back in, it seems, he was about to be on the other side of the war, so maybe you'd be a little, but because he likes you or you like him, you're going to give him F-35s. Like, something feels a little off to me there. We'll put that there. Here is a bit from Fox. It's Sandra Smith talking about Mark Rutte, who again is the Secretary General now of NATO from Denmark, who is sitting there with Trump. That NATO, thanks to Trump, is coming around and might not be so reliant on the U.S. in the future.
Mark Rutte in the Washington Post yesterday. He writes, quote, NATO 3.0 is rising and buying American. The alliance has learned that has leaned too heavily on U.S. muscle is building its own and buying American too, obviously referring to the sale of military hardware. This, combined with President Trump's comments today, seem to indicate a cheerier tone for the NATO alliance as they're meeting in Turkey.
All right, so this seems doubly good, guys, right? Like, so I just, you know, hit Trump a little bit here, but this seems doubly good because it's not only, okay, you guys are going to pay your fair share, but you're also going to buy from America, right? Defense systems, weapons systems, et cetera, et cetera. So this does, once again, go to show when America leads, we can set an agenda in the world. Doesn't mean everything's going to be right all the time, but we actually can influence things positively. And let's just try the other version of that. I mean, if it was Biden auto pen or it was Kamala or any Democrat right now, would any of this be changing? No, the gravy train would still be going. All of these countries would be doing whatever the high hell they want to do. We'd be paying for all of it. And likely the world would be much more dangerous. I think there's every reason to think that the hardcore part of the Israel-Gaza war would still be going on because hostages would still be there if any of them were still alive. I think there's every reason, who knows where Iran would be if they were on the road to the breakout on the nuke. Like there's just so much there. So this is where it is definitely good Trump. Let's talk about Angel Studios for a minute, then we will come back to the United States and back to the crazy Democrats. As America celebrates its 250th birthday, Angel is offering a great deal. Right now, you can become a premium Angel Guild member for just $15 a month with that price locked in for a full year. You'll get 2 free tickets to see Young Washington in theaters this Independence Day, plus access to Angel's entire streaming library and tickets to every future Angel theatrical release. Young Washington tells the story of George Washington before he became America's first president, showing the challenges, failures, and determination that shaped one of history's greatest leaders. To claim the offer, go to angel.com/Rubin and become a premium Angel Guild member today. All right, we are back here in America for a moment, and the Democrats they're just terrible. They're terrible, horrible, awful people, and they don't care about this country. They don't like this country much, and they're always interested in people who are not citizens of this country rather than the actual citizens of this country. Here is Ro Khanna once again calling for ICE to be abolished, and he saw some bad stuff.
ICE has increased detentions from 1,000 a day to 2,000 a day. Just last week, there were over 10,000 detentions. Now, I know ICE hasn't been as much in the news lately. After the Alex Preddy killing and the Renee Good killing and the siege in Minneapolis and Los Angeles, many people were outraged at ICE. But we cannot ignore their continued abuse. These people being detained are being denied basic human rights. I was at the California City Detention Center. I saw someone with blood in his urine who was denied medical care. I saw rocks in the food. I saw people shivering because they didn't have clothes. We need to abolish ICE and replace it.
All right, he is a liar. Like, I really cannot stand this guy, in case you can't tell. First off, 10,000 detentions. What do you say, 10,000 detentions last week? Great, let's up that. That's number one. Number two, Renee Good and the other guy, well, he was attacking ICE agents the week before, and they knew it, and he was he had like a bat, and he was hitting a car, and then she was the one that was driving the car into the ICE agent. But okay, you went to some detention center. Strange, why didn't you take any pictures of the rocks in the food? Or the shivering? You didn't take any. Where was that? Where did he say he was in that video? Where was it?
Delaney Hall.
And where is that?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. So he saw people shivering in New Jersey. It is in the summer, so they were shivering because of too much air conditioning. Is that what you're telling me? But again, some pictures or videos would have been nice. But let's say, Ro, that you did see the blood in the urine guy and the shivering guy and the rock, the food with the rocks guy. You might have done that. Ro, how much is Ro worth, Connor? Ro is worth $232.7 million. He has 2 children under the age of 10 who own 3 golf clubs where membership is $45,000 a year. So, Connor, how much is Ro Khanna worth again? So, Ro, you could take, I don't want to ask too much for Ro. He has the nice suit. He likes to get a nice haircut. How about we just took $32.7 million of your dollars? You'd have a cool 200, and you could get the rocks out of the food, and you could look into the excessive air conditioning in a summer detention camp in New Jersey. Could we do? How much is he worth? One more time. What a scumbag. You know what scum is, guys? Scum is scum. I'm telling you, it's scummy scum from Scumtown. Speaking of scum, Michigan Senate candidate, communist, quasi-jihadi, really hates America, standard Democrat stuff, Abdul El-Sayed. Here he is, and once again, they just want to make sure our country is flooded with illegals.
I'm the only candidate in the race who has the courage to run to guarantee health care or to say that we just got to abolish ICE because it's unconstitutional what they're doing right now.
Oh, wow. He has so much courage, guys. He has so much courage to say the thing that they're all saying. Holy cow, get that guy a courage award. What's the lion from Wizard of Oz thought he had courage at the end of the movie? No, this guy, Abdul Sayed. Can we put his head on the lion's body? Do something with that? Okay. And just universal health care for you have so much courage that you can just say something that doesn't mean anything. How are you going to do it? Are doctors going to want to do it? Does it mean that everyone's going to have good health care? Are you going to ensure, are you going to force people to work, et cetera, et cetera? If you give universal health care to everybody, then do I have a right when I see some fat bozo at Wendy's eating his 87th burger to punch him in the face because I'm paying for his health care? There's a whole bunch of questions here. That's my point. But they're all just terrible. Let's jump over to Abigail Spanberger over in Virginia. This is from RNC Research. New Abigail Spanberger made Virginia a sanctuary for criminal aliens, criminal illegals like Juan Aravello. Look at this guy. I mean, you know, there's this trend of looks-maxing online right now. This is a guy who could have Clavicar come in and, what's his name? Clavicar? Clown car? Clavicular. Come in and just whack him with a hammer in the chin. You guys know about this? They take a little, well anyway, hold on one second. Let me finish. So this guy here, he was arrested for kidnapping and rape. Okay, but so this Clavicar guy, he comes in and he has a little hammer and he whacks your jawline, and these little micro bruises create that nice tight jawline that you want over here. You know what I'm saying? Put that picture back. I mean, this guy, Clavicar, should be working on this guy. But okay, again, the point is they just love rapists. They love murderers. They don't care about you. This is the problem. And interestingly, people who have come here legally and then partaken in the American dream are also fed up with this, because the Democrats, as always, they can't make the distinction between legal and illegal. And when you don't do that, you're spitting in the face of the people who came here, did it right, and then accomplished the American dream. One of those people, we talk about him often, is Chamath Palihapitiya from the All In podcast, who's a major VC tech guy. And here he is on a podcast talking about H-1B visas, how it helped him and a guy you may have heard of, Elon Musk, but how it's fundamentally different from back then to how it is now.
I came on an H-1B visa. Elon came on an H-1B visa, okay? At the time, you got your H-1B visa right away and then there was many that were available. This is in the early 2000s. Yeah. Why? Nobody was applying for these things. And so who did you have? I mean, forget about me, I'm irrelevant, but you had guys like him that were coming into this country. You had these incredible scientists, Urs Holze that ends up at Google. These are giants, okay? What's happening now? For the last 15 or 20 years, what's been happening? You have farms of applications from a handful of companies. 20,000 slots open up, 800,000 applications flood in. So you can't stipulate abuse, because what that means is the odds have become so overwhelming that the next Elon or Urs Holze was already being shut out of America. I sure as would never have gotten an H-1B in the way that the program works today.
Now, a certain set of people might hear that on the left and go, well, he's racist because he's implying that somehow these Indians are gaming the system or something like that. Chamath came to the country in 2001, and he is quite literally living the American dream. Is he a billionaire? Yeah, he is a billionaire. He did okay on that little H-1B visa. And by the way, the H-1B visa was set up, we wanted to bring over exceptional people with exceptional skills, usually in computer engineering, science, et cetera, because we had a lack of that, and we could have all the discussions of why that was and everything else, but that there were then people who could become part of America and help us become bigger and stronger and better and everything else. One of those guys is Elon Musk, who came in 1995 on the H-1B visa, but then, to Chamath's point, it then got abused relentlessly, and huge swaths of people, and it did have a lot to do with people specifically coming from India, were completely abusing the system and were getting in, and then were basically just owning Subway sub shops. And not that there's anything wrong with owning a Subway sub shop, but we don't need people from other countries coming to do that. Americans could actually do that. Here's a bit more from Chamath on this whole situation.
So I think it's fair to say two things. We can stipulate the following two things. Immigration is really good. We should be attracting the best of the best of the best, and they should want to be here. But we should also make it fair so that the best of the best of the best who have been getting Heisman'd for the last 5 years because a handful of companies in certain countries have abused this system you need to stop and tourniquet the bleeding so that you can reestablish trust with the American population at large. There's a lot of people that look at me and say, that guy's part of the problem. You can see it in the comments on X, and I'm like, wow, me?
But do you think that's partially because of the rhetoric that's come from D.C., come from this administration?
No, I think that's been building up for decades because they see the abuses on the ground. They see the people that show up and they're like, wait a minute, this people is not smarter than me. All I can see is wage suppression.
Yes, that is completely 100% right. So what were the two things? Immigration is good. I think most Americans can get on board that, right? Not unfettered, unlimited immigration, but he stipulated immigration is good. You want the best of the best. So right now, it's like we've got our closed border, and couldn't we figure out how to, in a proper manner, get a certain amount of people who have certain skills that might be good for America to come in? I think most people are sympathetic to that and beyond sympathetic to that. I think most people would see that. But then what he said is the key part, and this is the part that nobody, certainly on the left, but even some of the people on the right don't want to deal with properly, which is that you have to stop and tourniquet the bleeding. Meaning we have had a completely and utterly broken system. We've had illegals flooding in. Then you get people that are taking advantage of the H-1B visas and everything else. And then people start becoming very skeptical of all immigrants, and they start becoming a little bit racist and everything else. And in some sense, you probably could argue that you can't fully blame them. If you suddenly see a whole bunch of people coming to your country and they're getting jobs, and then you have to think about this in the world of DEI and everything else, and then suddenly because they're brown and new, they're getting a job ahead of you, and you're just white and middle-aged, and you bang your wife once a month. You're screwed, buddy, and not enough, quite frankly. But that's the point. That's the point. So if we have to deal with things maturely. Americans, he said two things in essence. Americans are good people and generous people. We are. And then also don't take us for suckers. So build out proper systems so that we can deal with this stuff honestly. That's, I think, a very sensible thing. We will go from sensible to a man who wants to rape intruders in his house, but not in a gay way in just a second. But first, monetary gold. To celebrate freedom every 4th of July, and as America celebrates its 250th birthday, here's a question. What does financial freedom actually look like? For many Americans, it means protecting their savings from inflation, global uncertainty, and the declining value of the US dollar. That's why so many people are turning to physical gold, and with monetary gold, you can even hold gold in a tax-advantaged retirement account. For more than 26 years, Monetary Gold has helped Americans invest in physical gold and silver, earning 5-star ratings from both the Better Business Bureau and Consumer Affairs. Get started by visiting DaveLovesGold.com or call 800-888-4096 to claim your free copy of Gold in Modern America. Once again, that's DaveLovesGold.com or 800-888-4096 to book your free one-on-one consultation. All right, so this Plattner situation coming out of Maine is just completely ridiculous. This guy had a 20-year Nazi tattoo. There was the story in the New York Times where he was accused of all sorts of sexual improprieties, but of course the woman who was accusing him of it happened to be a conservative, so everyone poo-pooed it. It was so obvious, and there have been 5 interviews where people were like, it's more coming, and he never convincingly said that more isn't coming. It's been so obvious this was all going to get worse. Then over the last 48 hours or so, it did get significantly worse as another woman has come out and basically said he drunkenly accosted her, and all the pieces are coming apart. But what's more interesting here is how all of the Democrats basically at the same time have thrown this guy under the bus. And we'll get to Bongino on this in just a second, but there is no chance in hell. If they thought this guy could win, they would all be throwing him under the bus at the exact same time. So there was either internal polling or they know that some seriously even more deranged stuff is about to come out with him that would completely collapse the whole thing. We've played so many clips where all of these Democrats over the last couple of weeks have been asked things about him, and they're always like, but you know, he's our guy. He's our guy. And now he's got them by the balls, the very small balls that Democrats have, because he basically is threatening. He does not have to step down, right? He won the primary already. He doesn't have to step down. And if he doesn't step down in the next, I think, 5 days, he will be the candidate. They will not be able to replace him. And he's demanding to have a voice in who he would be replaced with. Go.
His endorsement. Chuck wants him to end it immediately. And they're even shopping for his replacement. Democrats have less than a week to find a new candidate. But the New York Times reports that Plattner won't step down unless Democrats promise to replace him with someone just as radical as himself. His campaign says that's not true, but we're not sure how good their word is at this point. The party knew Plattner had skeletons in his closet. His opponent was warning about him back in March.
The negatives on this guy are much more damaging, and that's why I'm trying to get people to look at the whole thing, the whole picture. I think his liabilities make him much more vulnerable.
You know, I'm not one to offer the Democrats advice, but I will offer you a little advice here, Democrats. If what he is saying is, I will not step down unless you get someone as crazy as me, and you know what that means. If it's as crazy as him, it'll be someone even crazier. How about try this, Democrats? Because you're pretty good at this. Just lie to him. Just lie. You know what, Graham? Come, we'll have a meeting. And, oh, yes, you want someone as crazy, Skeletor? Yeah, maybe Cobra Commander, Mumra, maybe Megatron? Okay, we'll sign off on that, and then have him walk out, and then find someone who is sane. You might want to try that to beat Susan Collins, but he's got you guys. But the broader point here is they were willing to ignore the Nazi stuff. They were willing to ignore all of the alcoholism and female abuse and the fact that he was on Kik, which is basically an underage sexting app, and a whole bunch of other crazy former Reddit posts and everything. They were willing to do it because they thought he could win. So here is Dan Bongino completely blowing up the idea that the Democrats suddenly have morals.
You brought up a really valuable point that I have to kind of reiterate here. This is not about any principle whatsoever. It's not about Plattner's position on women or taxes or anything like that. This is about a simple power equation. Plattner was an acquisition tool for more power for this collectivist communist left. That is it. The sole principle in their triage of needs was power, and he was a useful tool to get there. When the polls started to dip and there became this this moment, this red line moment after the allegations of porta potty stuff we can't even mention on the air, multiple allegations with women, of course the Nazi tattoo, which was kind of like a sign if you're not a moron. The red line moment only came when the betting markets turned and they were like, hey man, this guy's probably not going to win. There are no principles involved here at all.
You know, it's funny, I forgot about the porta potty thing. Apparently the guy he liked, I mean, I could say it, it's not Fox, he liked to pleasure himself in porta potties. Which is, that actually sounds like the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my entire, I despise porta potties, don't want to be near them, much less that. I don't want to poop in them, much less, okay, but laundry list of things. But of course, Bongino is right. Because it was so obviously coordinated that they all did it at once. Otherwise, you would have seen a couple people, right? There might have been a couple people over the last month that were like, you know what, I'm just not going to get in on this. Or Ro Khanna might have been like, you know what, this is a bit much. Somebody. But no, they all fall in lockstep, and then clearly the message, the signal went out, and guys, the betting markets changed. This guy ain't gonna work for us. We gotta push him out quickly. They don't suddenly care about women, and they don't suddenly care that he had a Nazi tattoo or anything else. They are terrible, horrible people. So let's go down memory lane and prove it. Here's Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy. He's all about morals and goodness, and you gotta be good and great and everything else, until he's asked about Graham Plattner.
I think it's hard to just say everybody should be good and moral. I think you've got to create a set of rules that promote goodness, promote the common good. And that's what this book is really about.
Should those rules apply to Democrats too? I mean, do you support Graham Plattner even in the wake of all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed the minute by minute of what's happened over the last few days, but I do think there's a difference.
Yeah, you know, we got to be good and great, and I wrote a whole book about it. It's called The Good Great Book, and you got to get in on this whole thing. And do you support the guy who's an alcoholic, who's sexting minors and beating women and masturbating in porta potties and well, he's here's a little more from Chris Murphy. Oh, no. No more from Chris Murphy. I think I made the point. I think that was rather succinct and effective. Here's last month, Sonny Hostin saying that, yeah, he probably is the most evil mother effer on the planet, but he's our guy and we're going to go with him.
Republicans at this point can ask us to take the moral high ground.
There you go.
That is over at this point.
That's right.
That is over.
It's a choice.
I am sorry. Democrats have always fallen in love and Republicans have always fallen in line. It's time for Democrats to stop that nonsense, put emotions on the side. Let's be strategic. Let's get some power. Yes. Let's take over the Senate. Let's take over the House. And let's right the ship. Let's get our country back. I am sorry. I am someone that believes in character. I am someone that believes that morals matter. But because of the state of this country, if I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would vote for Plattner.
I mean, that's basically what the road to hell is, right? You will burn. I don't believe she's a good person or has morals or anything else. I don't. Obviously, I think she's the most racist person on television. And again, it's just the quest. She says it. It's the quest for power. We need power, right? And okay, well, if you don't have so you're for women? I guess not. You're not for women anymore. You're not for women who maybe got raped or who maybe got abused otherwise. You're not. Suddenly, you enjoy people who masturbate in porta potties. Is that your position, Sunny Hostin? Like, it's just insane, but they're telling you that, and that is what the progressive movement is. The reason they can have so many competing interests and people that make no sense. You can have the gender queer furry ding-dongs with the Islamists because they all just want power. There will be a series of beheadings as they attain power, mostly the jihadis moving up and the gender queer weirdos. I thought I was getting head, not being beheaded. They'll be on the way down. That's how it's going to work. But because they just want power. That's all. Let's not forget that last month, many times, Plattner was asked if more was coming, and he fudged it, let's say.
There's going to be more coming at you. Has your campaign, I'm just putting my own campaign operative hat on here. Has your campaign been working to figure out what an opposition file with any additional allegations might have in it? Do you know that on your end? Have you thought about it?
Oh, I've thought about it extensively. I mean, here's the thing. I've lived my life. I was there the whole time. Much of the allegations that have come out as of late are literally just lies. And so, I don't really, they've already gotten to the point where they're moving into just making things up. And if we're already there, I don't know what else they're going to make up because I don't know what's going around in the very weird minds of Republican operatives. And so the idea that they're going to try to scare me out of this race is rather laughable.
That's certainly what they're trying to do, and even that threat of trying to Biden you, as they're calling it, is certainly part of that.
All right, I can't even bother with Psaki and just what a pandering, partisan putz she is. But it's interesting because it's the Republican operatives that are going to bully him out of this, and they're not going to do it. Well, magically, it turns out that your whole party turned on you because you weren't going to win. That's why. Another one who backed him. This is just a quick 3-second thing, but Elizabeth Warren really loved this guy.
That's my kind of man.
Phoenix, come over here. I'll read this. Oh, wait. we have something great for you right now. So that's my kind of man when it comes to Elizabeth Warren. Now, interestingly, when Pete Hegseth was being confirmed as Secretary of then Department of Defense, now Department of War, she was freaking out. You may remember this from the New York Post. Senator Warren harps on Pete Hegseth's Christian tattoo as she rails against his anti-woke policies, despite religious scholars later countering that Dieu vult is considered a common Christian symbol. Warren contended that the fact that his superiors were concerned about the tattoo raises questions about whether he could be the Pentagon chief. You were also removed from President Biden's inauguration because of concerns that you were an insider threat after reports that your Dieu vult tattoo was a Christian expression associated with right-wing extremism, she wrote to Hegseth. We cannot have a defense secretary whose fellow service members feel concerned enough about it to report it as potential insider threat. Now, that's very interesting. It's Deus vult, right? Deus vult, which means God wills it. And she was very concerned about that tattoo, and it was far right and Christian and everything else. Was not concerned about Graham Plattner's Nazi tattoo. Interestingly, Phoenix is going to make a rare appearance here. Right-wing maniac, not going to put his face on the camera and ruin his career. Although you work for me, you'll be okay. But look at this. So this guy, according to, I keep a little Nazi who's running my teleprompter over there. Okay. Can we shift to the view? You want to throw the warning in while I crack my neck? Okay. Okay, so over on The View, you might think that yesterday they would have opened the show with all the Graham Plattner stuff. However, they didn't because Whoopi got stuck in Sicily due to Mount Etna erupting, and they spent extensive time on that. Then, just as they were going to commercial, they did mention something about Plattner.
And the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today.
Now, ABC News has not confirmed the contents of the political story, and Plattner vigorously, as you saw, denies the allegations. But he adds that he's taking time to reflect the best path forward. Now, we're going to take a quick break. Is that right, Brian? Yes. And come back, and we'll talk about everything we've seen. We'll be right back.
Okay, so they took a quick break. After, like you'd think this is the biggest thing. No, but Whoopi was, okay, fine. All right, doesn't matter, not a big deal. But then here they got into it about Plattner. And just, Joy, you're just terrible.
Domestic violence should be a no. It should be an absolute no.
All of that's true, but
him.
I don't want to hear from the Epstein protector party. Okay?
Yeah. No, but then it becomes a race to the bottom.
And I said it. If I lived in Maine, I would have, plugged my nose and I would have voted for him anyway. I think that we are in a time of existential crisis in this country. I think Republicans fall in line. They don't fall in love. Democrats want to fall in love and not fall in line. The Republican Party, the bar is so very low. I cannot believe that they want to try to assume the moral high ground on the Republican Party. Right. I mean, you can miss me with all that, especially when you have Pete Hegseth, when he had 1, drinking allegations. Number 2, he had a tattoo controversy, not 1, but 2 tattoo. In 2017, a woman claimed he had sexually assaulted her, and in 2020, and he says it was a consensual encounter, and in 2020, he paid her $50,000 to settle the claim. Yet,
why not condemn them all?
Yet,
I condemn them all.
Well, but the Republicans didn't do that.
Matt Gaetz,
the Republicans confirmed him, and
I'm a Republican right here condemning anyone who's been credibly accused of sexual abuse.
I'm talking about the Republican Party as a whole.
So would you be comfortable?
They are the Epstein file protection party.
You'd be comfortable still voting for Graham Plattner if you lived in Maine?
Can I just say one thing about this?
Take the moral.
I know that Alyssa makes a couple $100,000 there, so you can't really feel bad for her, but I love how she's like, I'm a Republican, pay attention to me. I'm doing what you asked, Sonny. I'm trying to do it. And Sonny just talks through her. Okay, so I get it. Sonny, just no morals, whatever, double standards, blah, blah, blah. Joy and the Epstein protector class. How many documents did the Biden administration release via the Epstein situation? 0. Donald Trump's administration released 3 million. Now, you may not think it's enough or anything else. Joy, are you going to turn against Bill Clinton, who was on that plane all the time? Or are you going to turn against Bill Gates or any of your other Hollywood friends that were on that thing all the time? So what is Donald Trump doing to protect these people? But again, if they did not have double standards, they would have no standards at all. And speaking of no standards, disgraced former representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is so interesting. I've mentioned this many times, but if you are a Republican and then you go against Trump, the very same people who hated you before will love you, right? So this is like Liz Cheney. They all hated her when she was a mean Republican. Then she turned against Trump, and they tried to turn her into a superstar of mainstream media, and she lost her race in Wyoming. I think it was by like 60 points or something to Harriet Hageman. This is what they do with everybody. If you turn on Trump, you will be a hero. So they're trying to make Marjorie Taylor Greene a hero, but here she is. It's just going so freaking overboard. It's just ridiculous.
Let me ask you this, because yesterday on X, in a now deleted post, you accused Plattner's accuser of doing, quote, rape for politics, end quote, stating that she had consensual sex with him years ago.
I was warning the public.
No,
okay?
but this woman is warning the public.
No, I'm saying the public needs to be warned because rapists need to be convicted.
I do want to ask you about...
So it's the woman's fault.
No, Sonny, it's not the woman's fault. Not at all.
Congresswoman, I want to...
We're out of time. As much as...
Y'all should have had me for the whole show.
No. Sorry.
Yeah. Well...
All right, Joy, I chuckled at that one. No, we're not going to have you. But yes, so Marjorie, Rape for Politics, the implication that this woman either made up the story or was intentionally raped or something so she could take Graham Plattner out. Now, also you might think, oh, it's a little bizarre. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was supposedly a far-right Republican, and now why is she running to the defense of Graham Plattner, who's on the far left? Well, that's the horseshoe theory of politics, right? The further right you are, you end up actually coming around, and the further left you are, you end up coming around because all you actually care about is power. So she's disgraced, ridiculous, and lady, just work on the spray tan. You're obviously doing fine in that department. Stick with that. And yeah, all right, Joy, I'll give you a little credit there. Here's Scott Jennings making a little more sense of what's going on right now.
I'm amazed at just how breezily Democrats are out there publicly discussing subverting the will of the people of Maine. Graham Plattner overwhelmingly won a primary. 98% of what we know about Graham Plattner, we already knew. The voters knew, the Democrats knew, the activists knew, the donors knew, everybody knew.
And there's a reason why everybody
voted for him.
Summer of 24 right now.
They voted for him anyway. Graham Plattner hasn't dropped out of this race
But
yet.
if Graham Plattner does drop out,
but you
that does open the
have all
opportunity.
these Democrats and even some of the, well, I guess we'll have to get somebody else. You had a vote. This is a democracy. The Democrats voted. And now the party of democracy is apparently going to subvert the will of the people.
Yeah, so he's being a little cheeky there, but of course he's completely right? Like think of all the videos we've shown you of this guy and of the defense of him and everything else for the last however long it's been, 2 months or so. Is anyone watching this right now going, I really thought he was a great guy? Sure, he could have had a better buzzer that would have been a little more consistent between the mustache and the beard. But beyond that, he seemed pretty good. No, nobody's doing that. Nobody. Everyone knew this was happening. And that is, to Bongino's point earlier and to Scott Jennings' point there, that is how you know the fix is in. They realized he was going to lose. And now they have basically 5 days to figure this thing out. And he has them by their ever-shrinking balls. All right, let's put that guy down and go to somebody worse. See, I can figure out somebody worse than Graham Plattner. There's a guy in New York City, Zorham Mamdani, and he now even is turning on Graham Plattner. He likes rapists when they're Hamas raping Jewish girls, not a fan of rapists when they're raping liberal white women or something like that.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey, how's it going, Tyler?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
I wanted to ask, given that you have a sort of ascendant role in the Democratic Party, could you talk about the Maine Senate race? Do you think that Graham Plattner should drop out of the race? And do you have any intention of endorsing any candidates in competitive races outside of New York, Al Said or anyone else?
No, I believe that it's time for him to drop out of the race. And when it comes to my own endorsements, I've made 8 endorsements at the state and federal level. They've all been right here in New York City. I'm incredibly excited at the fact that they won their races, and that's where my focus is for now.
So again, guys, the worst of the worst, and they're all turning on Plattner at once. So don't think for 1 second they suddenly got morals or anything else. Actually, take Sunny Hassan for her word. I'm putting aside my morals and everything else to vote for this guy. But then when they realized that, what did she say? We need to take back power. So once they realized, we're not going to get power back with this guy, now we're going to give him the boot. Jordan Peterson, who I texted with yesterday, and I am thrilled to say he's not back yet, but I think he is getting a little bit better, or I know he's getting a little bit better right now, and he's getting a little more active. He has put up a couple tweets in the last couple days, put up a great tweet. I think we read it on the show on July 4th, his July 4th tweet. But he put up something yesterday as it relates to Mamdani, and I thought this was, it's Jordan 101. He wrote this: "My activities are still very limited at the moment. I have been doing some writing, however, thank God. I'm so relieved to be once again doing something creative and useful. I have also been watching Professor Paul Kenger's The Dark Side of Marxism from Peterson Academy. It does not feature the Marx portrayed by the woke university socialist acolytes, to put it mildly. I interviewed Paul Kenger a year ago or so on my podcast. He's a truly engaging, creative, and witty storyteller and lecturer. It turns out that old Karl Marx was quite the satanic soul. He was a parasite economically all his life, extorting continual support from his long-suffering relatives. He wrote and admired purposefully demonic poetry and drama. Most disturbing, however, was his choice of his choice of favorite quote. From Goethe's Faust is a line I've quoted many times in consequence of its sheer existential horror. It's Mephistopheles presenting his identity and central credo. Now listen to this. I am the spirit that endlessly denies, and rightly too, for all that comes to birth is fit for overthrow as nothing worth. Wherefore the world is were better sterilized, thus all that's here as evil recognized is gain to me and downfall, ruin, sin, the very element I prosper in. I wonder, and Jordan went on, I wonder if Zoran Mamdani knows of the inclination of his apparent intellectual hero. You may want to reread that later and really take it in and understand it. But in essence, I am here to destroy everything. And that is who Mamdani apparently loves to quote. So rather than ending the show on Karl Marx and the love of horrible things and evil people like Zoran Mamdani, Trump posted this yesterday of Marco Rubio explaining exactly what we are up against, and I would say this is basically 99 out of 100.
Socialism sounds benign, but at the core of democratic socialism is Marxism. And at the core of Marxism is this fake offer that if you turn over more of your individual freedom, we're going to provide you security. We're going to provide you free healthcare. We're going to provide you free education. But the problem is that when they can't deliver on it, or when you're not happy with it, you don't get your freedoms back. And by freedoms, I don't just mean elections. I'm talking about the right to choose your own doctor, the right to make healthcare decisions for yourself, what your kids learn in school, what schools they go to. All that stuff you lose control over, and you don't get it back just because the security they promised you didn't happen. So that's what we're on the verge of having to decide here in this country. It's a reason why people flee countries that have this stuff. It's a big deal for America, and I hope people start waking up to that reality.
And as always, Rubio, he knows this. He speaks from the heart. He is Cuban. It's his family's experience. It's everyone that lives around me in Miami's experience. And we better understand what these people are doing. And again, just listen to them. Listen to Sunny Hostin when she says we have to put aside all of our morals on the quest for power. Take note when out of nowhere at the exact same time they all start throwing people under the bus who apparently will not help them on that quest for power. Sorry, Graham Plattner. We'll see if he has his revenge in these next few days and whether he doesn't even step down and just says, he might do the Cobra Commander. If I can't have it, nobody will. And I'm going to destroy the whole thing. But that's what they are after, and that is completely antithetical to the principles of the United States. So take our 250th birthday and run with it as far as you can, but particularly to November 3rd when we have a chance to stave this thing off and perhaps put it back in the Pandora's box from hell from whence it came. Post-game show, 30 seconds, RubinReport.locals.com.
I suddenly don't want to destroy America and everything good about it. Something is wrong!